Good morning, everybody. We're going to be talking about consumer rights and responsibilities. And a little bit later on, we're actually going to watch probably about a 9 or 10 minute video on this image on the right-hand side, which is the McDonald's hot coffee lawsuit that I don't know, you might have heard about it. It actually happened before you were born, but if you ask your parents about it, they definitely would remember what it is. So we've got 7 different rights of consumers, but we also have responsibilities of consumers as well. And then we want to talk about conserving resources. So this whole thing is falling in line with being a good consumer. So to begin with, when we talk about this Consumer Bill of Rights, it's not something that was always around. If you notice, it was introduced by JFK in 1962. So prior to that, there were different things that were just not right. If you ask somebody that probably is around your grandparents' age about some of these things, they probably lived through it and they actually are going to remember quite a few of these different things. So when we talk about these consumer rights, they have kind of transformed over the years, but some of them are extremely basic. The right that you should be informed of what's going on with a product or service, that you can choose what you would like to do. You have the right to safety, that your car should be safe, a toy should be safe, a trampoline should be safe, and also that you have the right to be heard. So if something is wrong, that it's okay for you to complain about it. This is all wrapped up into something called the consumer movement. So JFK was really tied into this. And we also see that other presidents were involved with it as well, but a lot of the credit would actually go to him, for those of you that are big time history buffs. So what this whole thing is going to be all surrounding about is trying to make sure that the consumer is protected. So when you talk about being informed, some of you could possibly have a tree nut allergy or a gluten allergy. It's kind of like that the product should be labeled if it has that. The example that you have over on the right-hand side is going to be information that credit cards should provide to you. So all these different things, that nothing should be hidden from you as the consumer. The second thing that we'll talk about is the right to choose. So for us living in the US in a free market economy, we have 1,000,001 different things that we can choose to buy. Think about when you go to the grocery store or CVS and you're trying to buy toothpaste. There are so many different options of what you can choose. So for us, fortunately, we've really been brought up in an economy that is like that. Over here on the right, you can see that it's monopolies and trust. And probably the closest thing that you would have heard about that in the news would be things like T-Mobile and Sprint. There was kind of a lawsuit brought against them that was going to become a monopoly. And that's most likely one of the things that you would remember from modern day. We also have your right to safety. On the right, we've got child safety gates. There have been recalls on different things like that. They even have different sections on the popular news channels like 6ABC, where they do product recalls so that the public can find out about it. We also have different things with right to be heard. So you can see that we're talking about fraud and bait and switch. And it's the idea that as the consumer, if something's wrong, it's fine for you to let the company know that something isn't right. Maybe it just happened to the one that you actually had, that product, or it's something that is a defect all the way around. So one of the other things that is going to still fall into these rights are the rights to have problems corrected, and then also the right to consumer information. We see a lot of times with car recalls. For example, you may remember that there were recalls over the Takata airbags. They, in their manufacturing process, they had metal shards that were inside of them, which is horrible. But when they would deploy, not only were people in an accident, but they were also having severe damage because of these metal pieces that were actually inside of the airbag. So that's kind of crazy if you want to look that up. But to have it corrected, that actually happened to a car we had, and we took it to the shop. They fix it, and there's no cost whatsoever. So the cost of that would have actually gone to the Takata airbag manufacturer. And then also when we talk about the right to consumer education, that you should have different ways that you can find out true information about products, not just Amazon reviews. I hope that we're all at the point that we know that online reviews could very well be skewed, if they would have actually paid for that. And then also the right to service. So when we talk about the right to service, what we're going to find out is that if you look at that timeline, 1962, JFK, you might have already figured out the connection. On the right to service, this is starting to fall in line with our civil rights movement as well. So you can see how these different things are probably going to match the topics that you've done in social studies. So the right to service is the right to be treated respectfully, the right to expect fast delivery, to be served without discrimination on the basis of race, gender, income, or age. So it could be something that you identify like that. One of the other things though, so now on the flip side of it, as a consumer, we have things that we have to do as well. We're not just going to be able to blame it on everybody. So these responsibilities for us are to make informed decisions, to make sure that we choose products carefully, use products safely, speak out if there's a problem, seek remedy if something needs to be fixed, and also it's our right to make sure we learn consumer skills and actually not just kind of walk around this planet thinking none of it falls on us. So we can kind of look and see what we're talking about over here. This little image on the right is like if you've ever heard of a car described as a lemon where it just has constant problems. Before you make decisions, you need to be as careful as you can before you spend money, not just for a fraudulent type thing, but if there is a car that has bad ratings all the time, to make sure that you're very careful before you make a major purchase for something to that effect. Also, on our next one, to choose carefully, it is a responsibility for us to make sure that we are protecting the environment. Some of you are going to be more involved with that topic than others, but we definitely need to be mindful. Moving on from here, this is probably one of my favorites, to use products safely. So if you think about the scooters and trampoline fails and all these crazy kind of like dumb things that happen, there are accidents, but trying to have 5 people on a trampoline at once is probably not a good idea. And then also you have the right to speak out. So sometimes we've had on the right with Walmart, people have actually boycotted Walmart. Walmart's been in the news in years past, not really recently. People boycott them because of their employment practices, but I do think that they've taken strides to actually fix that. But boycotting is something that would fall in line with that. To be able to have consumer skills, we just cannot sit there and think that everything out there is going to happen the perfect way all the time. So we have to pay attention to prices. We need to read packages. Remember back to the allergy thing. If I've got a tree nut allergy, I obviously have to be mindful of that. I need to make sure that I'm paying attention to see if there are any scams that are out there. Maybe there's going to be a class or something where I can learn about making major purchases such as buying a house or something along those lines. So when we look at these different things and we talk about rights and responsibilities, there are things that are guaranteed to you. Those are going to be your rights. But on the flip side of it, as a consumer, we cannot just be a stick in the mud. We have responsibilities as well to make sure that we're making the most educated decisions. There you go.